All right, guys. Sorry for the delay. Hopefully you all had a great weekend. Starting with earnings again this week. So last week, I mentioned that the best way to play earnings is pretty much to wait till after the event and then trade on the information you have with the implied volatility declining. And that would have worked for a lot of the names. Like Amazon was pretty much flat after rallying prior to earnings. Apple was flat for the most part. AMD came down a little bit. Facebook was the only one that really actually rallied hard out of the big tech names. Neo was for the most part flat. Shopify popped. Microsoft dropped on good report. Tesla dropped on a decent report, albeit they had a revenue and profit boost by Bitcoin. Twitter got smacked back down to the same price they're trading at when they IPO'd. So kind of interesting to see that Twitter has not moved at all in 7 years or so. Pinterest fell as well. Visa was flat for the most part. XOM was flat. UPS had a monster report. They actually skyrocketed last week. Here's their chart. So my point last week was that why don't you wait till after an event and then trade the earnings, right? So like UPS, prime example, a nice consolidation over the past roughly 8 months or so, and we saw this consolidation over here. And what happened? Nice big breakout to 204, right? That was the anomaly along with Facebook. Here's Facebook over here, right? So again, all-time highs on Facebook. But looking at Amazon, for example, they reported on Thursday, opened the day pretty much flat on Friday, right? Apple, same thing. They ended up pretty much opening the week the same way they opened the prior week or closed the prior week, right? So week over week, they're pretty much flat on a very, very damn good earning report, right? Like they blew it out of the park and issued a $90 billion buyback as well. AMD, same thing. They hit a high of 89 after earnings on Wednesday morning, and they fell down to 81.40 on Friday. That was also partly to do to SMH, the semiconductor ETF, getting a bad beat on Friday as well. They were the worst performer out of the sector ETFs, right? So they were down from 254 on Wednesday down to 243 on Friday, right? This week ahead, so I mentioned Activision Blizzard. They report this week on Tuesday. Actually, is it Tuesday or Monday? Yeah, it's Tuesday after the bell. And for them, the expected move in either direction right now is 91, about $5 in one direction, like 550 or so. So upside would be around 96.50 and downside would be around 85.50 or so, right? So yeah, they report on Tuesday after the bell. Nothing too exciting to talk about there, really. They've only really been dealing with Warzone, Call of Duty for the most part. So we'll see how the numbers fare. They had launched a new map a few weeks ago, and that may have brought in some new money. People buying new skins and whatnot. We'll see what happens with that. I'm not too optimistic. They also lost one of their key developers, Jeff Kaplan, the creator of Overwatch. He left as well. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Overwatch 2, which should be a big blockbuster name for them as well. Following that, there's also Virgin Galactic reporting on Tuesday as well. And so Virgin Galactic, they have, and one sec. Here's their chart. Again, they've been beat up a lot the past few months. They had that massive run in January up to a high of almost $65. And since then they've fallen back down because they keep on missing milestones, right? They haven't done anything at all whatsoever. They keep promising they're going to do a test flight and they keep on pushing it back and delaying. And that's not instilling confidence in investors. Not to mention that both Chamath Palihapitiya and Richard Branson both sold off sizable stakes in the company. I believe Chamath sold off his entire stake in the company. So again, that doesn't instill confidence in investors. I'm no longer invested in it anymore myself. But either way, this week, their expected move in either direction is, one second, so 22, about $2.40 up or down. So upside would be around 24.40, downside would be around 19.60. I'm inclined to think they're going to obviously miss earnings because, well, for the most part, they have no revenue right now. We'll see what if they discuss their back orders at all, and that could possibly be a catalyst but again, I'm not very optimistic on the company, so I would stay away from it. Following that, there's also on Tuesday, SKLZ skills, right? Here's a chart over here. Again, they were also beat up a lot. They went from about $10 a share up to a high of $47 a share almost, pulled all the way back down to $12.50. And in the last couple of weeks, they rallied back up to around $18. And right now they have an expected move. Again, they report Tuesday after market close. They have an expected move on for Friday, as of now, of about $2.60. So roughly upside of 20, downside would be roughly 15 or so, right? Next up, we have Altera, ticker symbol AYX. They report on Tuesday as well. And they have been consolidating in this nice little 80 range for the last month or so, almost actually 2 months, right? So you can see since March 5th, they were at around 80-ish, right? So pretty good support at the 80 area. I'm inclined to think we see a pop back up. We'll see what happens with the report, but here's a longer term chart if you want to see how they've fared, right? Again, the 80 over here seems like pretty strong support. So I'm inclined to think that we'll see upside on AYX. Yeah, they report Tuesday after the bell. And again, strong support right over here. So in my opinion, it's likely we're going to see a pop, maybe to the upside perhaps. Right now, they're pricing in, the market's pricing in a move in either direction on Alteryx of approximately $10 in one direction. So upside would be around 92, downside would be 72. Obviously, if it broke below this support area, next area support would be around 50. So look out below if it goes back, if it goes below 80 in a major way on heavy volume, right? Otherwise, in a interesting play on Tuesday as well is Xilinx XLNX, right? The reason why this is interesting is because AMD acquired them in kind of a merger. It's kind of a merger in a way, but AMD acquired them in the literal sense. And so they report Tuesday after the bell as well. And if they have a good report, that may be a catalyst for AMD to see some upside on Wednesday and for the rest of the week, right? So again, AMD had a phenomenal report last week. Beat EPS, beat revs, guidance solid again. And they mentioned that data center was actually very strong, contrary to what Intel was saying the week prior, which caused them to miss their report. So basically, if you read between the lines, what's happening is that Intel is losing customers to AMD right now, right? So again, the consolidation we've seen for the past, since basically July of last year, late July, right? That's still been occurring for the past, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April. So now it's been already 9 months, right? So this baby might start pushing to the upside at some point. I'm inclined to think it's going to happen probably by July, August. And I've been mentioning we're going to see that likely, we're likely to see that upside move above 100, creating a new range between probably 100 and 120 or so, right? That'd be the new range that'd be created. Either way, for XLNX, who reports on Tuesday, their expected move for the week is, let me just pull it up. So options aren't very liquid overall, but using the midpoints, about $8 in one direction. So upside would be roughly the current price, roughly 136, downside 120-ish. So interesting to think about how to play that. I'm inclined to think about it through the lens of AMD, given that they're kind of tied at the hip right now until the merger goes through. So whatever they do, that'll affect AMD's price as well on Wednesday after they report on Tuesday night, right? Next up, heavy hitter is PayPal, right? PayPal reports this week. They report on Wednesday after the bell, and PayPal is expecting to move in either direction right now. And they've been doing very, very well as a company, by the way. FinTech as a whole, between Square, PayPal, Cash App, whatnot. Square owns Cash App, by the way. They've all been doing very, very well right now. And so PayPal is expected to move this week. Another direction is, sorry, one sec. I just lost my screen. I gotta reload one sec, sorry. Here we go. So yeah, they're expected to move in another direction this week, is about $16 in one direction. So upside would be roughly 279 or so. Downside would be roughly 247, right? So pretty wide range of values. Expect PayPal to move heavily. I would think that they're going to move more than expected. So I would say upside would probably be around back to around 300-ish. Downside could be as low as roughly, well, I guess 225 is a pretty good support overall. If it got down there, that'd be a good buy opportunity right there. But yeah, so 250 is possible this week, I think. Upside 300, definitely possible this week as well. I'm inclined to think that they're going to do very, very well on earnings, given that I know how much they're charging their customers, and the volume is just increasing over and over again, right? So that's PayPal. Also reporting this week is Square, SQ, right? And they, like PayPal, are in a bit of a range too. So heavy support at 200, obviously double top resistance at 275 all-time high area. Right now they're at 245 approximately. And this week they report on Thursday after the bell. And for Square, they're expecting to move in another direction right now is approximately $20 in one direction. So upside 265, downside 225. They have had a history of moving greater than they expect to move. So the potential move on them would be around 26 in another direction. So downside would be roughly 220-ish and upside 270-ish from the current price, right? I like Square a lot. I think that they're doing phenomenally well. The Cash App is killing it. Obviously, if you listen to Joe Rogan, you hear him talking about it every single podcast. But yeah, they're doing very well right now, and they report Thursday after the bell. Otherwise, we have Rocket, RKT. They've been super stagnant the last little while. You can see that they've been sitting in a range between pretty much 2094 or so. Downside, upside has been roughly 23 or so, right? So very tight range here. This leads me to believe we're going to see again, kind of similar to the past when we've seen tight ranges over here, followed by a burst up. Again, tight range over here, burst up. Tight range over here, I guess, wasn't that tight of a range, but it was on a decline, followed by a burst up, right? So usually when you see consolidation in a very tight range, it means that a big move is coming in another direction. I'm inclined to think that we're going to see an upside move in Rocket just because they may issue another dividend, special dividend. And if they do, that would set a trend for them. That might make them a dividend stock, so to speak. Obviously, their cash flows are fantastic. They're doing very, very great as a company. And I expect them to see upside longer term. It's pretty surprising to me that they're still in this little range right here. But again, I do think we're going to see them hit 30 and then make new highs over the course of the next couple of years. And anyone who holds longer term may get paid handsomely in dividends, especially buying at a lower price, right? Last quarter, they issued a dividend. I believe it was $1. Was $1.18, I think, or no, $1.11. That's what it was, right? So special dividend, pretty substantial for a cheaper stock. So yeah, keep an eye on that. That's Thursday as well. Wednesday after the bell is Rocket. And then we have a few more names. We have Etsy and Uber as well. So Etsy is right over here, right? Again, they've been crushing it from last March low of $30 or so up to 200 and change. This area of consolidation, if I zoom in on the chart, you can see it a little bit better. So you can see that the 199 area has been pretty good support overall. And the area of resistance is around 225-ish. So expect to see it either, break support, and then in that case, the next level will be 175, or if it manages to make an upside move and break above 225 or so, then it would have clear skies or so to 250 or so, which is the all-time high, right? Uber also reports last week there was word that them and Lyft and DoorDash may be forced to make all their workers employees instead of contract workers right now. So that would be a huge blow to them because it would make their business pretty much unsustainable. And you can see what happened on Thursday. Their stock price fell all of a sudden. Here's the 5-day chart if you want to see what happened when the news broke, right? So right over here, news broke, and stock price fell from 57 down to around 53. Lyft also reports this week too, and same thing happened to them too, right? You see the same kind of chart, straight down. Also DoorDash as well, same thing happened with them too, right? So again, I'm not really too focused on their earnings because I think it's more of a concern is what happens with legislation as to what would happen if they'll be forced to make their workers employees. If that happens, then you're going to see prices probably go up, and that would make their business unsustainable, right? There's also Roku and Peloton reporting this week too. So Roku is over here, down at 344 area. Here's the 1-year chart. So support pretty good around 320, 325-ish. Right now on Roku, the expected move for Friday is, let me pull up the option chain again. So it's approximately $40 in one direction. So upside would be around 285, downside around 305. Sorry, upside 385, downside would be 305 approximately, right? Last but not least, we'll go with Peloton. So Peloton has had a rough month as they were rumored to have been forced to recall their treadmills, and that was due to a child dying getting stuck underneath one of them, right? So see what happened was they went from 120 down to this area of support, which is a pretty good area of support, right around 100, and this may not be a bad area to go long. Again, I think they're very overvalued regardless, but they could have a blowout quarter, and if that happens, then obviously they'll push back up to 120-ish. Right now, looking at the option chain, the expected move on Peloton is about $10 in one direction. So upside would be roughly 108, downside would be roughly 88 or so, right? So keep an eye on Peloton as well. Friday, there's also DraftKings and Canopy Growth as well. They both report. So if you want to look at CGC and so here's CGC right here, right? You can see they have earnings on Friday morning, I believe. Closed at $27 roughly on Friday last week, and the expected move this week is currently it's not a very big move actually. It's only about $1.50 in one direction. So upside would be roughly 28.50, downside would be roughly 25.50 or so, right? So not a crazy move expected. DKNG as well. They report Friday morning pre-market. Again, consolidating nicely above 55-ish over the last couple months or so. And they have an expected move this coming Friday. Let's see. Of about $5 in one direction. So upside would be roughly 61, downside roughly 51, right? Obviously, if it hits 51, next area of support would be roughly 45, right? And then requested was Palantir, right? So Palantir right over here, right? So we can see that Palantir has been consolidating again pretty heavily in this 20 to 25 channel. Where's the chart I want to go? Oh, here it is. All right, so you can see over the past roughly since I guess early March or so, it's been between like 25 or so upside. Downside was around 21-ish. So I don't think we have much more downside. Obviously, it closed at almost 23 on Friday. They report earnings in a couple of weeks, and right now, you know, I'm still very bullish on them long term. I'm just being patient and waiting for a dip down below 20 either to add or a pop to 30 to sell, cover calls, or some of my calls as well, right? Yeah, so right now the expected move going forward, again, IV has been kind of crushed given that it's sat in a range for a while, right? And right now the expected move on Palantir, we're gonna go a month out, not for the weeklies, right? So from May 21st, which takes us past earnings right now, the expected move is about $3 in one direction. So upside 26, downside 20 by May 21st, right? And the IV right now is roughly equivalent to the HV. So it's not very pricey to buy options right now. If you wanted to play it longer term, I'd probably buy in the money calls going out to at least August, because June is too short term. So August right now, you can get, for example, in the money call options, 20 strikes go for about $4.50. So your break even is $24.50, which is about $1.50 over the current price. But as we've seen in the past, obviously, Palantir has the ability to go from 20 on January 14th, it was at 24 and change. And 2 weeks later, it was at 45, right? So it has the potential to push back up to like that area again. You got to be patient with it, have conviction, and understand that, right now, this is a longer term play. In the short term, it can do anything, but it may just stay in this little range right here and keep on burning premium on the calls and the puts. So if you're selling cash secured puts at 20 or so, kudos to you, you're making good money. If you're selling covered calls at 25 or so, kudos to you as well, you're making good money as well, right? But obviously you want to be, if you're long on it, you want to be concerned about selling covered calls too close to the money, because if and when it does have that burst to the upside, you may miss out on a move kind of like this right here, where it went from 25 to 45 in the span of 4 days, right? SPY was kind of weak on Friday, obviously. So my take on the way it's responded to the movements, my take based upon how it's responded to earnings thus far is that the market's kind of toppy, and it doesn't matter what companies report, because as we saw with Apple, AMD, Amazon as well, it didn't matter, right? They had great reports and the stock prices stayed flat or fell, right? In the case of AMD, Apple, and Amazon, they fell very, very modestly overall, right? Week over week. But that tells us that we may need a pullback in order for people to move into the market, more money to move in at more appropriate prices before a move higher, right? So right now, with Apple, for example, all-time high is 145-ish. We're still about 15 bucks away from that. AMD all-time high is around 100. We're still about 20 bucks away from that. And then you have Amazon, which hit all-time highs on Friday and then pulled back substantially. So here's a chart that we saw on Friday, right? If you bought at open on Friday, you got wrecked because it opened up at around 35.50 and closed at 34.67 or so, right? So yeah, I would trade cautiously for the next couple of weeks at least, because with earnings finishing up the next couple of weeks, we may see some downside action in the market, and that would be detrimental to a lot of your portfolios if you're trading short-term contracts. That's why I say, buy at least 2 months out minimum if you're going to trade. Don't trade short-term, right? So hopefully that helps you guys out a little bit here. I'm going to end the recording now and do some Q&A. If you like the video, obviously hit the like button. If you want to share it with someone else, I appreciate that. Cool. If you want to comment below and ask a question, by all means, I'll respond when I can. Have a great week, and we'll chat soon, okay? So here is...